Welcome to the Fire and Earth podcast with your hosts, Jason Mefford and Kathy Groover. Fire and Earth, giving you the keys to unlock your limitless potential.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Fire and Earth podcast. I am your co-host, Kathy Groover.
And I'm Jason Mefford, and today we're doing another one of those prompt questions. And so this is kind of interesting because neither Kathy nor I are sure where this is going, but we didn't hesitate in making our decision. Okay, and the question is, are you hesitating? And when we saw that, we're like, nope, that's the question. We didn't hesitate on deciding which question to pick.
Right.
But now we're hesitating and a little bit on what do we say about it?
So I can only, of course, as always, speak for myself. I do have a little bit of hesitation in my life right now because I'm just finishing up. I just finished up my psychedelic integration coaching program. And because psychedelics are still legal nationally, they are still illegal in California. Santa Barbara's in the process of trying to put it on the ballot to decriminalize them, but psychedelics are illegal. So my hesitancy is, how do I tell people what I'm doing without risking getting in trouble? How do I advertise what I'm doing without risking getting in trouble? And I've gotten better at it. I've expressed to more people what I'm doing. And what I'm doing is not illegal. I'm not providing substances. I'm not leading journeys. I'm helping people with prep and integration. But there was a huge hesitation in me expressing to people that I was doing that. What are they going to think? Am I going to lose credibility? Does it look unprofessional? Does it? So I'm now stepping into that sort of boldly empowering myself to say, yeah, this is what I do. And I'm selective. I'm not just throwing it out to everybody, but the people that I've said it to have gone, oh my God, that's so cool. I want to learn more about that. So it's starting to give me that feedback of people are, even if they're not going to work with me in any way, they're really interested in that, because now after Michael Pollan's book, and there's been so many specials and there's so many studies out there about psychedelics, psilocybin, MDMA, ketamine. Ketamine is legal. I'm starting to see a lot more people asking questions about that. So I get to share knowledge. And I had written an article for Newshawk, which is our little local daily paper that comes on, through your email every day. And I advertised with them for my coaching services, and had written a stress article for them as sort of a, hey, here's who I am, here's what I do. Didn't really get much from it, but they're like, hey, if you ever want to write another article, let us know. And I wanted to write one on psychedelics. And I was like, oh, and I hesitated. And finally I sent them a message, because it's going to be a no if you don't ask. And so I finally just reached out and I went, hey, I don't know if this would work for you guys. I'll keep it within your parameters. And, oh my God, we'd love to have it. Write it for us. And I'm like, oh shit, I got to write an article now. That fear of persecution, of judgment, of rejection, all that stuff held me back. And I was hesitating to basically speak my truth, which is kind of, me a long time. I'm pretty forward in speaking my truth. This one held me up. And so I had definitely some hesitancy around all that.
Yeah, and I think it's natural for us to be hesitant. I mean, I do that. I mean, a lot of my professional training, in auditing and risk management, when you're taught that, you tend to observe and hesitate and wait a little bit, but in thinking about it, it's like, well, but why do we do that? And I think it's like you just kind of expressed there, sometimes I think we're hesitant because we're unsure what other people might think, what other people might say, how it might reflect upon us.
Yep.
I think sometimes we're hesitant because we're unsure of what the outcome is going to be, right? So we don't want to necessarily make a decision because we don't know for sure what the outcome is going to be. Or sometimes I think we're hesitant because there's just so many different options. And I struggle with this one a lot, is when there's so many options, it's like, what do you do? And I remember one of my sisters, they lived in Germany for a while. Her husband was in the Air Force. And so for most, a lot of their first part of their married life together, they would buy at the BX or PX. I can't remember which one the Air Force calls it, but the little local,
Oh yeah.
convenience store that's on the base.
Mhm.
And especially living in Germany, that's kind of where she went to shop because she didn't speak German.
Mm.
And so they were there for, I don't know, 4 years, something like that. Kind of got used to the routine. And I remember her telling me that when she came back to America and she went into the grocery store, she
Oh.
just stood in the chip aisle and didn't know what to do. I mean, this was the time before all the fancy flavors, but it's like her option, on base was regular, barbecue, sour cream and onion,
Oh.
right? That was all that it
Yeah,
was.
one brand, one bag.
One
Yeah.
brand, three flavors, you pick.
Mhm.
Where now, and again, anybody can do it. You walk into the grocery store, literally the whole aisle in a grocery store is chips. When you have so many different choices, sometimes I think that's why we hesitate a little bit too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And, we don't want to make, I'm a very quick decision maker. Like, I literally will sit down at a restaurant and go, okay. And Eric goes, wait, you know what you want already? And I go, yeah. Whereas he will agonize, Libra, he will agonize over every food choice and every option. And the waitress will come back and he'll go, you go first, or hang on a second. And he's getting better at making those decisions. And I think we talked about this before. I had read a business book about decision making and business and that sort of thing. And the guy said one of the ways he trained himself to make quicker, smoother decisions in business was to do that in restaurants. He would pick up the menu. The first thing that caught his eye, he would order. That's how I got my wedding dress. It was the third dress I tried on. I was out of there in like 25 minutes. Could I have tried on more? Yeah. Would they have been better? I don't know. Did I want to try on more? No, the girl was stunned. I pulled more for you. I'm like, put them back. I picked one. I tend to be pretty quick with those kind of decisions. That's not where I hesitate. This was a big one for me because I was worried about the concept of getting in trouble.
Yeah, which I think is again why we probably hesitate, because like you said, if you order something off the menu that you don't like, you don't order it again. I mean,
or you send it.
the impact of it is not
Mhm.
really that great or doesn't have a long-term impact, right?
100%.
And so I talk about that in from a risk management perspective sometimes,
Sure.
right? It's like, well, what do you expect the consequence to be? Well, if the
Mhm.
consequence is you're going to die, the
Right.
consequence is you're going to have your leg chopped off, or the consequence is you sprained your ankle,
Right.
right? Each of those have different long-term
Mhm.
consequences. And so, the ones where, oh, we might sprain our ankle a few weeks instead of, breaking our leg or dying,
Yeah.
right? Those kinds of things are a little bit more, we tend to take longer
Sure.
in trying to think about them. But at the same point, I don't know that we need to, because again, it's like, you know, we're all writing our story.
Yeah.
We're making a choice today. If we want to make a different choice later, then we make a different choice later.
Right.
You try it, or you don't. It's up to you, but you can always make a different choice going forward. And so you don't
Absolutely.
necessarily have to hesitate, because I think a lot of the suffering and
Mhm.
agony comes from not making the decision. I mean, I think I can't remember where I said what, but my last marriage, it took me months to decide at what point was the right time to leave, or is this really what I needed to do?
Mhm.
I agonized over that for a lot longer than I needed to. Yes, there were, longer term implications and, significant financial things that went along with the decision. But, the quicker that we can make decisions and then just remake a decision,
Yep.
actually the less suffering we cause ourselves as well. Because most
Yep.
of the we agonize more and are fearful about what other people might think,
Yep.
way more than what actually happens when we do it.
Right. Well, and it's interesting that you say that because I think hesitation is also a perception. So I'll give you an example. So when I have an idea, I tend to just bold action go with it. I'll think of a business idea, and then by the next morning I'll have a website, business cards, advertising it, telling people what it is. Whereas my ex-husband would come up, he'd mention an idea to me, and I go, "Oh my God, that's a great idea. Like, why don't you pursue that?" He'll go, "Okay." And then months would go by. And my brain was like, did he give it up? Is he not doing it? What the fuck? And then months later, he'd have this fully blossomed thing, right? So I thought he was hesitating. In reality, that's how he processed things. That's how his method of working was different than mine. And it took me a while to recognize that. He'd say, yes, I'm going to do this, and then nothing would happen. Whereas when I say, yes, I'm going to do it, I'm like doing it. Like I'm off the phone, I'm off this call and doing the thing. So some people work differently. So this is where that curiosity comes in, right? Of getting curious of, so you had mentioned this thing, is that what you're working on right now, or da 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 da, and not just assuming that somebody's not doing it just because they're doing it differently than you. So it just kind of popped in as you were talking.
Yeah, because I think we all, both from a personality standpoint, again, I mean, you mentioned Libra, I mean, zodiac sign and other stuff. Each of us, kind of do things in our own way, and it's okay. Some of us maybe hesitate a little bit longer. Other people are jumping in the deep end of the pool, without even, questioning or doing anything. And they're both right answers, right? And I think for each person, it's just a matter of realizing, well, is this really something that I need to hesitate or think about, or should I just make a decision? Because
Right.
I've seen in my own life that I've hesitated way too long to make certain decisions, or been worried about what might happen for much longer than I need to, because most of the time people don't even notice, they don't even care, or the consequences are nothing like what I had dreamed up in my head.
Yep. Yep.
And so I actually caused myself more pain, if you will, more suffering by worrying about that. And we've talked about that before, right? If we're thinking too much about the past or the future, we're probably, again, that's where suffering is.
Yep.
There's really no suffering, when you're just in the present moment.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny that you say jump into the deep end of the pool. When I was at my big retreat in Costa Rica, we had done a temescal, which is a sweat lodge. And I don't do great with heat. I have been known to pass out or to need to soak myself in cold water if I get overheated. And so I was hesitant about this temescal. I knew that they had what was called 4 doors. So you would go in, they would stoke this fire, the place would fill with smoke. There was a beautiful ritual that went along with it. And then it was based on the elements. So after the first element, they would open the door. You could get out if you wanted to, and then you couldn't come back in. And they would bring in more hot stones and do the steam. There's no fire and there was steam. So I knew that if at any point of these 4 doors, I could go. I made it to the end. I was so proud of myself. I didn't have the profound experience that a lot of people did, but I was just proud of myself because I knew my body constitution doesn't always like that sort of thing. We get out, there was a little lake there, little pond. I head down to the pond, and many people from my time in the Temescal were already in the water. The water was ice cold. And I stood with my feet in because I was so overheated. I knew that if I went straight in, it was not going to be good for my body. So I stood with my feet in. And then I went down to the next step and I stood there for another 2 or 3 minutes. And what started to happen is the people that were already in misinterpreted my strategic entry as hesitation. Come on, just jump in, just do it, just jump in. Come on. And everyone started yelling at me to just jump in the water. And I was getting pissed because I knew what I was doing. I knew the reason I was taking my time is I needed that time. To them, I was afraid of it. I didn't want to jump in. And I finally was like, guys, stop. Like, I'm overheated right now. I know if I go straight into that water, it's not going to be good for me. You need to give me some time. And they all kind of went, oh. Because for them, it was right. For them, it felt so good. And they don't know what's happening inside me. They don't know my constitution. I've known these people for 4 days. So, if someone is taking their time, don't assume they're hesitating. Maybe just get curious and give them the benefit of the doubt that what they're doing is right for them.
Yeah. Because that's the important thing, is finding what is right for you. Sometimes you might choose to hesitate. Other times you choose to jump in.
Yeah.
There's no, even each situation, there's no right answer per se for each situation that you happen to be in as well. So.
Yep. Cool. Oh boy, we always find something to say.
We didn't hesitate about deciding to talk about hesitation, did we?
We didn't. It was good. And we covered like different aspects of it, right? It's about when not to hesitate, when to give yourself a break to hesitate, when to, the fear of that. Cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. Awesome.
Very good.
Yes. Well, I am Kathy Groover. I can be reached at kathygruver.com.
And I'm Jason Mefford. I can be reached at jasonmefford.com. So quit hesitating, or do as you wish.
Hesitate or don't. We don't.
Whatever. Right. And we'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.